What's going on, everybody? BobbyFi back with my man Sheets. We're going to talk a little bit about the state of the DFS industry in light of what's her name, the woman from The Bachelor winning the Millionaire Maker and having between her and her husband the maximum. They both max entered 150 each lineups, and they had no players crossing over, which is pretty interesting. And it brings up a whole bunch of different things, and a lot of us going back to multi-accounting and poker, and then you got to talk about collusion and DFS, and basically what is it and how does it qualify. I can just say I had my girlfriend finish 19th in the Millionaire Maker once. Now I used to have a sheet, and I would have my rankings for each thing, but she built her lineup. She took all my information, but is that any different than someone else's optimizer? Like, what is the line here? That was probably 3 years ago. And it just never has come up for me again. But I would never do this. I actually don't think that you're necessarily going to be able to get away with it unless you're the top level guys, like a certain pair of brothers that we all know about. I don't think this is necessarily even optimal. I go into everything planning on this. You asked me pre-show, what would you do if you came in second and this stuff came up? I would do nothing. I would not expect for a second them not to get paid out. I understand it's a problem overall in the technicalities and where people are at, but as someone, I just wanted to get on the record of saying what I go into everything assuming this is happening anyway. I'm playing with guys who are max entering and that they're definitely colluding. It's much harder to play against those brothers that we all know about, whose names I don't need to say, than it is going to be against randoms who do this. And no matter if these guys are good or knowledgeable, they're definitely not as good as those guys are. And you go into it knowing this. You have the odds against you. It doesn't matter. I feel like it's a little different than multi-accounting in poker, but it's the closest thing. But because I feel like multi-accounting in poker is absolutely much worse when you're sort of playing. To me, you could give someone else 1,500 lineups. I'll play and I'll figure out a way to beat them. I understand it's a weird position to be in. I actually feel like odd talking about it because I feel like I actually see the other side of it, but I can't help but think it's just stupid and naive and petty to get so upset as if these people did this horrible thing that literally tons of other people are out there doing in some form of another. And where do you even draw the line in the first place? I don't have any reason to play more than 150 lineups ever. So this is not something I would ever even consider. But I just think it's absolutely ludicrous to have to be up in arms about this. And to me, it's petty. It's something you should assume anyway, and it's just a part of the game, unfortunately, and nearly impossible to completely regulate.
Well, let me start by saying what I said to you just before we started, is that when I first got into finance and got into dealing with people's money in general, somebody very smart once told me that the two things you never want to take a stance on when you're dealing with money and talking with people are politics and religion. And I kind of remembered that from whatever. And when I got into poker, for whatever reason, the thing I never really wanted to take such a hard stance on was multi-accounting. And again, multi-accounting had different levels of it, as does, I think, what's going on in DFS. And again, for those of you that this is a little bit too much above them, I apologize, but I figure most of you knew something about poker. But when it came to multi-accounting, the rules were very strict in that you can only have one account under your name and you can't share that account with anybody else. Okay, sounds reasonable. But then what happens, and you could go through all these different things. You could go as easy as, sweetheart, I have to run to the bathroom for a minute. Could you watch my cards? Okay. Technically, she's not supposed to be playing on my account, but is it that big a deal? Okay. But then one kind of exception leads to another, and then you have people playing on 15 different accounts, sometimes at the same table, okay? And then I think reasonable people would agree that that's kind of gone over the line. So what you bring up is the interesting point is where is that line? And when it came to poker, I always was of the belief that the sites intentionally left themselves a little bit of leeway to make room for common sense. If your electricity goes out, you call up a buddy, and you say, listen, I know that you have an account that's not mine. Can you just log into my account, just take over for me while my freaking electricity comes back? And that became kind of the gray area in a way. Then they would have to figure out whether they were in that tournament or not, or whether whatever. So there are kind of gray areas, and I really feel as though the poker sites intentionally left themselves a little bit of discretion to make room for common sense. Because on the one hand, they want to maintain the integrity of the game. Yet on the other hand, they want to run a business and they don't want to be 99% dealing with security. So I feel as though that when the websites like DraftKings and FanDuel or whatever, when they say to put that out there, then listen, we give you a lot of lineups you can play, but you're only allowed one account and you're not allowed to quote unquote collude or make complementary lineups with another user. Okay, I think that again, because they don't say exactly what the penalty is for doing a mild case of that they leave themselves room for common sense. So each thing I think is just kind of a matter of degree as to how egregious it is. Like I told Bobby this example. If I'm sitting there and my son comes in, now he doesn't have an account because he's too young, but it's a little. Daddy, can I make a lineup? Along in the Millionaire Maker with you? Can I have one? And he makes a lineup and it's the same as mine. I'm gonna say, Matt, don't do that. That's stupid. We can't want it. We don't want to tie. Oh, okay. And so that innocent sounding thing, by definition, is exactly what they're trying to prevent: intentional collusion. Now, again, it's different because he never knows owns his own account. But let's say he did. Let's say that, like, for example, I don't want to say, but let's say that you and I were, I don't want to put us involved in this. Let's say you and I are talking on the phone, and I'm like, oh, I like this lineup. And you're like, oh, yeah, that looks like mine. I'm like, well, I don't want to put exactly yours. That's an innocent sounding conversation, one lineup be one, that I think that most people, reasonable people would agree, okay, that seems logical. They would do that. But then, on the other extreme, I would imagine that there are still syndicates of players that pool all their lineups together. Again, I'm just being cynical. I imagine.
Well, they absolutely do. I'm not going to name any names, but I know people who do this. And also there's other people who do it completely harmlessly, where you're in a room with your buddies who all play, and you have 5 guys who play for a living. I mean, I've seen it on all these live final trips. You have everybody building lineups together. There is no way that somehow the group think is not going to take over. I just know that's going to happen. So it makes it really easy for me, and partly why I like being a tournament player better, is you're not always trying to find the most optimum play. You're trying to find the most optimum play versus the field. And I'm assuming the field is going to be thinking similarly. Overall, it's a really tough subject, and it's hard to have a direct opinion. What would you say in this specific situation should happen?
So I think this situation, like most things with DFS and poker, the community spend a hell of a lot more, too much time figuring out whether they did it or not than is needed, because it took 2 seconds of statistical analysis to figure out that these 2 accounts colluded. Okay, I mean, that was easy. They made 300 lineups perfectly unduplicated, whatever it is. And for anybody to suggest otherwise, in my opinion, shows a complete ignorance of statistics. So you don't even need to get into that. Okay. So the only really thing that come and did it violate the terms of service 100%. I mean, literally 100%. If they say you cannot have multiple accounts, 2 accounts making complementary lineups intentionally, obviously that happened. I don't think that any reasonable person would disagree. It really just comes down to, for me, whether anybody it bothers people, okay? No, and that's an individual thing. Like you said, I go into it knowing that. I used to go into poker thinking the kind of like a nastier way of looking at it. Listen, I don't care how many freaking accounts are playing against me. I just want to play well. I'll beat freaking everybody. Mm-hmm. You play 150. You want to play 150 suboptimal lineups just to give you 300 more diverse lineups? Fine, diverse all you want. Diverse it's going to be for you. You know what I mean? When I beat you, okay. Now I'm going to have double the pool of people that I'm going to beat because I'm better than you, okay. And that is definitely kind of a real hardcore way of looking at it. But for me, it really comes down to what the sites are going to do about it. And while that's a site decision, to me it's going to be interesting to see. And I see Twitter kind of blew up. You never can sleep through Twitter, man. I went to sleep. I didn't think anything was going on. You said, hey, let's talk about this thing. I'm like, what are you talking about? I looked there, like my Twitter feed was like littered with it, right? So I'm looking at a lot of other people's takes and whatever it is. And one person came out and said, listen, the most likely results are, number 1, they're going to do nothing, most likely. Number 2, they're going to, and not admit anything happened. Number 2, they're going to, move everybody up 1 spot and but not take the money away or something like that, or refund entry fees. And the most harsh is, tell the people, you know what, you violated terms of service. $1 million is gone, and you have to interlay on top of that for this particular situation. Remember, it's all a function of public relations versus business, right? And you have a famous person involved here, okay, which affects it both ways. You know what I mean? Because whatever happens to these people is going to be magnified as opposed to whether, some just random DFS guy happened to. You know what I mean? or some non-DFS guy that just happened to. So it's going to be an interesting decision of what they do. I feel as though, again, this is not me, but I feel as though it's going to be rough for them to take $1 million away. I just feel as it will. I feel that if you took it to a court of law, which you're not going to, I think you could argue that they should take it away because technically they did violate terms of service. And I'm sure that somewhere in the terms of service, it says exactly what it said in all the poker sites.
Even that,
you violate the terms of service, we can do whatever we want.
Logically, that's true. That's actually still impossible to prove. Like, look, it's obvious that they colluded because of the facts of not having any crossover in players. But that's still an impossible thing to actually prove, which sounds crazy. And I know we both know that we know they did, but they can't actually prove that they did. They could literally chalk that up to being coincidental.
There's no way.
Obviously, we know it's not realistically coincidental.
But I'm telling you, as I mentioned this to you before, I mean, we talked about, look, they said that when it came to the UB scandal, right? When UB, it turns out that those people were cheating. Yeah. You could say, well, just because you didn't see them cheating doesn't mean you can't put a reasonable statistician up there and show how a scattergram works and show how the odds of this occurring by random chance are worse than winning the lotto 75 times in a row. So even though you didn't see that happen.
No, I obviously you're right. I'm just saying that I don't know how they can prove. Because it could just be casual conversation. Hey, I'm going to play a bunch of this guy. You play that guy. Sometimes when my family goes to play craps, this is obviously different, but like they love to bet the hard way. So if one of them is betting the hard 8, the other one's not going to bet it. They'll bet the hard 6 because they don't want to be doubled up, even though they're technically each trying to win for themselves. That's a separate thing, but it's just like, I don't know how you technically can prove that they don't deserve it. I mean, I don't know. It's
well, here's the deal.
Logically.
Well, here's the deal. First of all, again, I presume that the rules according to DraftKings are the same as the poker rules had. They said, listen, if you violate the terms of service, we reserve the right to do whatever we want, right? I'm presuming that's what it says. And if that's the case, you say it's going to be impossible to prove, I will take that case in a shot. Okay, I'm telling you, it's really not as difficult as you might think. You might say, well, prove it. You can't. I mean, it's just impossible to not be able to prove it. You see, remember, you don't have to actually have the smoking gun of showing them colluding. You just put the math up there in front of any reasonable people, and the proof of it is not a big deal. I really think it comes down to I don't want to say showing mercy, but just having them make a business decision of what they want to do. I mean, for me, like, what if they gave them the $1 million and didn't give the second guy the $1 million, for example? I don't know, man. That's rough. On the one hand, you'd think they would never do that. But on the other hand, that's rough business for that second place guy. I'm telling you, you get a second place guy that sees that they violated the terms of service and has the same evidence. I would take that case too. I would take it. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. But I think because these were famous people, I really don't think it affects it that much. I was going to say that it's just not going to go away because they're famous people. I think, in a way, the fact they're famous people means that they won't argue it and press it as much. Because I don't think they want to get involved in this kind of scandal either. I think, in a way, they almost want it to kind of go away as long as they get now, it's like, obviously, they prefer to get their money, whatever it is. But I don't know. What do you think? You think they're just going to just refund everybody entry fees or something like that? Or what do you think they're going to do?
I think that if there's anything they would do is bump everyone else up, like not under the table, but like just pay everyone, pay everything, just to not make it a deal.
So they would give another $1 million out.
They would have to pay up, exactly what it would be. Actually, it would have to be more than that because you'd have to pay everyone
that didn't cash by one.
Yeah, I mean, well, no, not everyone didn't cash.
One person.
Every other spot, like you'd have to bump that person up to $1 million. You have to bump the other guy up from 40 to 100.
Well, no, it would still work out to be $1 million, right?
No, it actually wouldn't because you're eliminating. It should, but let's see, because you're eliminating 900. No, because you're double paying one.
But you're only adding $1 million to the prize pool, right? You're paying. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because you have to.
I don't know, man. This is all mind scrambled now. Wait a minute.
Oh my God. All right. Well, anyway, it's.
In any case, it really might be worth it for them, I guess, to do that.
So first of all, I also want to just point out that I have a very nervous feeling, and this is about the industry in general all of a sudden for the first time in a while, because you've got guys like Chris Randone who works for Osimo. Like,
that's right.
He was a part of all this, and I've done shows with Chris before. He's a really good guy, really, really knowledgeable, especially about the NFL. And I don't think what he did was wrong. Probably like when we're all drinking and celebrating on Sunday night because we had your buddy just won $1 million, which is great to write that out. Like, and even if he and his wife won it, even if his wife won it, for him writing the husband saying congratulations shouldn't really matter. Like, it's husband and wife, like you share money anyway. Like these things, and now it's getting turned on him as if, see, he knew they were doing this, and it's just, let's be careful, and let's not use this as a way where we can't say something. Like if I say, oh, my girlfriend told me to play, I don't know, some golfer, and I ended up winning $1 million from golf. Like, if I just write that casually someday, am I going to get in trouble for that? That's ridiculous.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just paranoid, Bobby, but I'll tell you, like, if God forbid, let's say that I knew that you and your girlfriend had, you know, that your girlfriend had an account, whatever, and I saw that your girlfriend's account was like winning. I'm just paranoid from poker. I would not say a freaking word. I would just say, dude, I would be so paranoid. I'd be like, Bob, you make sure that she gets that money off right away. I really would. Again, because that's just you know, I remember it like just yesterday, like what could happen when money gets frozen. It's just nasty out there.
No, I agree. And that's what I'm saying, is that's what we're going to get in trouble with, which is the dumbest thing ever. First of all, I'm never taking anyone else's opinion on what I should do for my DFS lineups. I'll listen to your opinion, but I'm going to make a decision if I trust myself more, obviously. But like, if anybody else, all we're doing is weighing in. People write in every day to every sports show, including every show that I've been on, asking questions. Do I play this person or that person? Is that collusion? Like, what are we talking about at some point? Let's just relax. The better players will win. It is always going to be hard when you have less entries than the maximum players. It's still doable. I've done it. Other people have done it. I just think we got to make this less of an issue throughout the industry, because it's gonna, the blowback is going to be far too strong. And
that's the thing. Well, that's the thing. I mean, now with actually the NFL and the NBA and everybody just kind of like involved in it. I mean, I think the integrity of the game has to be paramount, though. You know, it's you know, I remember this is kind of funny. Nobody will remember this, but maybe back in the early days of Poker Stars, I used to the reason why, yeah, you know, you'll for those of you remember me, that I used to have this Linkoping logo as like my Poker Stars logo, right? And I always said that I was from Linkoping, okay, during the first 3 or 4 years of playing poker, and people would ask me, "You from Linkoping?" And I would kind of be sarcastic. "Oh, am I from Linkoping?" Not actually, you know what I mean? I obviously have never been there before. And my logic was this one player from Linkoping just won everything. So I just figured he's just so lucky, I may as well put Linkoping in my screen name also. So I got a call from Lee Jones, who was the head of Poker Stars back then or whatever. And he says, "Eric, you know, you can't put Linkoping as your city unless you're from there." And I said, "Why? What's the difference?" Right? And he says, "Because it's a fragile industry, and people need to know that the people they're playing against are real people from real places," or whatever. I even lied. I said, no, I had nothing to do with that. I just don't want people to know where I'm from for privacy reasons, because I live in a small town. I said, "Well, why don't you just put New York?" Right? And so what's the difference? I don't live in New York. I don't live in Linkoping. And he's like, "Eric." I'm like, okay. So the industry itself, I mean, it's got to maintain that level of integrity, especially now that you have NBA investing in it, right? NFL investing in it or whatever. So in a situation like this, I just wonder if I don't think they can do nothing. I mean, I think they have to make some kind of stand saying that it's a game that's not, I don't want to say cheated in the wrong way, but that's operating on a level playing field where there are rules that get applied equally. And I don't know what they're going to do, but I think it is an important public relations pivot point right now.
It certainly is. It's a little nerve-wracking. You know, we've obviously been through stuff before between poker and for me and for DFS also. Like, I mean, that was when you're doing something for a living and all of a sudden it goes away. It's
well, what happened? Now again, I don't want to talk about all this, but so again, I wasn't even playing at this time. So when the two things I heard about, one were the two brothers colluding, and number two was that the DraftKings people knew what was, knew certain ownerships or something like that.
Yeah, they could make adjustments because they could get the ownerships. But also, I mean, at the time back then, they used to show all the FanDuel ownerships from at lineup lock.
Oh, is that right?
Started, yeah. So what they would do is, so you could actually go yourself and get an estimate of sort of where people were.
Oh, okay.
Sort of like you can use fantasy draft to do the same thing right now.
That's true. That's true.
So
I was going to say that in my next video, actually, when I was going over fantasy draft.
Yeah, no, I really think that's the thing. Like, anyway, there's a lot of ways to go on this. Feel free to tweet us and comment on this. Like, let us know what your thoughts are, because it is a touchy subject, and just make sure you're open to every side of it and realizing that even if everyone else was doing this, it doesn't mean they're going to win or they're going to beat you. In fact, it's actually suboptimal. That's the truth. It's not suboptimal for those two as individuals if you're trying to come out first out of a million things, but it's suboptimal overall. You're going to find more losing lineups than not for people who do that. So anyway, that's my take.
Well, I think more, again, I think maybe I don't want to have the last word on this, but I think on an overall just kind of life level also, okay? One thing that Bobby said, is Twitter has become the forum of choice for just blasting people, and doing whatever. Just chill. Okay. First of all, you're never going to get anybody to change their minds. Okay. Regardless of how eloquent you are and how cutesy you are and how funny your meme is and how whatever you are. And, I would honestly, just remember that these are, when you mentioned Chris Rando, I don't know who that is. All I know is that, I know of him. I know that one of my wife's best friends was begging me to introduce me to him because she loves The Bachelor. And so I told her that someone from The Bachelor was doing DFS. Oh my God, you got to put me in with him, or whatever it is. So I don't know if he's taken a lot of hate from this or whatever it is, but just remember that most people's intentions have decent intentions. Let's put it that way. Not to say that that the people who # cheated should have done what they did, but I don't think that they were this big syndicate of people that were trying to put one over on the rest of the world. Because if they were, you know what, like I said, they would have completely hidden and they never would have said anything. And when someone said, "Oh, did you win that?" they would say, "No, I don't know what you know what I mean?" If they were really going to be like evil about it, they would make, lineups, they would make entry names that no one's ever heard of. And no one would ever brag, and no one would ever post on Twitter, I would think. So I think there were people that, they took advantage of a situation. They have access to 250 lineup things. Was it against the rules? 100%. I mean, I don't think there's any way around that. And as far as their level of evil involved, I'll leave that to you. I wouldn't have done it, but I could certainly think of worse. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, man, it's a tough one. I would have done it as well, but again, it's just really, to me, becoming a bigger deal and a bigger problem than I actually think we're really dealing with on a day-to-day basis. It's more the perception of us dealing with it that's, to me,
Bobby, make sure that you don't play Pascal and Young in the same lineups, because I'm doing that in all of mine. Okay.
All right, fair enough. So apparently now we've got to watch what we say, and we're talking about this stuff.
Now, dude, are you kidding? I'm Xing them out of all my lineups now. Are you kidding?
All right, man. Well, thanks for joining me, guys. Remember to give us the like and hit us up on Twitter and YouTube here, anywhere with any questions. We'll have some live shows for you guys shortly. I will talk to you soon.